After a weekend of being reintroduced to the XFL, you are rocking and rolling, brand new week, new energy, fresh slate of material on what is the best form, hottest form of Alabama football news, notes, and information you're going to find anywhere. This right here, being in my own words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And not only are we streaming to you via YouTube, Facebook, shout out to all my Facebook people out there. We are coming to you as well. As always, as we do each and every time, we encourage you to drop a thumbs up, a like on the show, and subscribe. That lets us know here at TDA to continue giving you the best information on your favorite football program, that being the Alabama Crimson Tide. It is because of you, the passionate, inquisitive, determined Alabama football fan. We are at 8,000, well, over 8,000 subscribers strong. That's right, over 8,000 subscribers strong here on YouTube. So definitely want to encourage you to continue growing, networking, pumping up the channel and the brand. Got a great list of topics to get to. First and foremost, we'll dive into some updates going on in Alabama athletics or former players having success in pro ball. From there, we'll dive into the first topic of conversation, that being Mac Jones. And can the Alabama quarterback have a year similar to what Joe Burrow had for LSU just a season ago? After that, we'll look into, of course, who will have the better season at wide receiver between Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. A tough question, but we'll dive into that. And then last but not least, we'll touch on the Alabama defense, and can it have a bounce-back year under Pete Golding? That, as well as your phone calls, topics, comments, and concerns. But getting into a little bit these updates here, first and foremost, Alabama, or former Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, huge news came out on him today via national NFL insider in Rappaport, as he was told by numerous team doctors and medical staff members that Tua, the fracture to the posterior wall of his right hip, the hip he dislocated against Mississippi State last season, the fracture to that hip has been completely healed. So the fracture's gone. He has maintained, or he has full range of motion, full range of ability in his right hip. Everything looks good in terms of the rehab, in terms of the progress and the process. Tua Tagovailoa looks really, really good right now. And according to Rappaport, if things continue to progress forward for Tua, he will be cleared, or he could be cleared for football activities as soon as within the next month. And this is big just due to you have 3 teams in the top 10 of the upcoming draft, that being the Detroit Lions, the Miami Dolphins, and the LA Chargers, that could use a quarterback. That's big news there for Tua. When you look at Tua's brother, Taulia Tagovailoa, there are rumors going around that he has put his name in the transfer portal. He has not put his name in the transfer portal, but the rumor does have some legs on it, just due to Leah is in the fight of his life right now. And you have Mac Jones, who has experience in this offense going into his 4th season as a redshirt junior. He started in 4 games a season ago, and he's proven that given the opportunity, he can go out there and make some things happen throwing the football. So with the experience of Mac Jones, but then the attention that Bryce Young has created and generated, it's going to be a major fight for Leah. If Leah cannot beat out Mac Jones and be the starting quarterback, or at the very least fend off Bryce Young to where he would be the number 2 de facto backup, if he's not at least the number 2 backup quarterback, then keep your eyes on the transfer portal a couple of days after the draft. You could very well see Taulia Tagovailoa's name in there. So right now, a rumor on Leah, but the rumor does have some legs in terms of this spring will be a big fight for him. Jumping from there to the XFL. The new XFL, the XFL is back. Got a chance to watch a couple of games over the weekend. And I was impressed with one Bradley Seal, the former Alabama defensive back out of Louisiana, still showing he can be at the right place, at the right spot, and at the right time. He made the roster for the DC Defenders. The Defenders took on the Seattle Dragons, and Bradley Seal recording a 69-yard pick six, picking off one Brandon Silvers and taking it back 69 yards for a touchdown, doing that Deion Sanders high step there. So Bradley Seal helping the DC Defenders get the 31-19 win over the Seattle Dragons. And even one Henry Ruggs III, a lot of conversation right now in terms of the NFL scouting combine. Fans, what do you think, that Henry Ruggs will run his 40 time in? That's a big question right now. Can he run it under the time of 4.2? That remains to be seen. So Henry Ruggs, big ups to him as he goes to the NFL Combine. But we dive into the first topic of conversation, and that being one, Alabama quarterback Mac Jones, and can he have a Joe Burrow type of year of which Burrow had in the 2019 season? I think he can, and the first thing we have to dissect into is not a lot of people believed LSU would have the season it had in 2019. Not a lot of people believed Joe Burrow would have the year he had in 2019. And for the longest of time, when you talk LSU prior to the 2019 season, the last time the Tigers won a national championship, it was 12 years ago. It was 2007. I was in the 9th grade. I was a high school freshman. So it was 12 years before LSU won a title. And then for the last 8 years prior to this year, it was winless against Alabama. Alabama was beating LSU on the field, and it was beating LSU in recruiting. And the last time the Tigers had a dynamic quarterback and a dynamic offense, you would have to go back to Jamarcus Russell in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. So a lot of people did not think LSU from the get-go would have the season that it had, except for the guys in the locker room down there in Baton Rouge. But the Tigers get the quarterback in Joe Burrow. They get an offensive genius in Joe Brady coming in from the National Football League, that being the New Orleans Saints. And the two of them, they put the offense together. The Tigers start ripping off points, ripping off wins, scoring at a high volume. But even with that, it took the Florida game for folks to actually really zero in on the Tigers. They put up 42 points in Week 6 against Florida, against a top 10 defense in college football. And at that point, folks started saying, whoa, look at LSU. Look at what they're doing. They may actually have something here. And then the rest became history as to what they did. This past season, Joe Burrow, over 5,000 yards passing, 5,671 yards, 60 touchdowns, broke records, won the Heisman Trophy. Now, am I saying that Mac Jones is going to pass for over 5,000 yards? Of course not. Am I saying that Mac Jones is going to account for 60 touchdowns? Of course not. If I was to give you the ultimatum here, Bama fans, of having Mac Jones throw for over 5,000 yards, hit a whole bunch of records, throw a whole bunch of touchdowns, get a whole bunch of individual accolades, or Mac Jones just delivering the Crimson Tide to a Southeastern Conference championship and a national title, I think I know the Alabama fan base, you guys, well enough to know what your answer would be. Your answer would be the latter. And for me, I look at this where Mac Jones is concerned. Number one, the doubt is already there on Mac Jones. The criticism's already there on Mac Jones. If you talk to a lot of people, it's he's not Tua Tagovailoa. And that's the biggest disrespect, not just to Tua, but also to Mac Jones, because everybody has their own skill set. Everybody has their different thing to make them special, to make them unique, to set them apart. Mac Jones is not going to be Tua. For crying out loud, Talia can't even be Tua. Leah has to be Leah. He has to step up and be his own man, his own guy, his own person. Not everybody is going to be Tua. Not even Bryce Young is going to be Tua. Bryce Young has to be Bryce. He's got to be his own cat, his own guy, his own person. Everybody has their own skill set that makes them unique, that makes them different, that makes them special. So Mac Jones has his own skill set, but the doubt is already out there on Mac Jones. Not a lot of people believe when the rubber meets the road, if the game was on the line, if the money's on the table, if the gun is to your head, nobody believes, for real, that Mac Jones is the guy that can take Alabama to a national championship and win it. I thoroughly believe that Mac Jones is the guy that can take Alabama to a national championship and win it solely based on this right here. Here's a guy in Mac Jones that could have easily taken the easy way out and committed to Kentucky. They committed to Kentucky, and Mark Stoops would have gave him the job on the silver platter. But Mac Jones is the type of cat that wants to fight, that wants to battle, that wants to compete. He says, why take the easy way out in a day and age to where you have the transfer portal, which, and here's my gripe with the whole transfer portal thing. Although I'm fine with players getting the opportunity to play if they don't have a set chance, but transfer portal gives people the easy way out, and I don't like the whole easy way out ordeal. Mac Jones decides not to take the easy way out. He goes to Alabama, decommits from Kentucky, chooses to go to Alabama in the same class as Tua Tagovailoa, showing he wants to fight, showing he wants to battle, showing that he wants to compete. So I look at a guy like a Mac Jones, even with the doubt already there. He's fueled by the doubt. He's motivated by the doubt. I believe that Mac Jones can definitely lead this team to a national championship and can have a Joe Burrow type of season in that regard, leading the Tide to a conference championship and a national title. But number two reason as to why I think this is possible is like Joe Burrow had help with Clyde Edwards-Helaire being a 1,000-yard back, with two 1,000-yard receivers and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and other guys pitching in. Look at the talent that Mac Jones has to work with. You get a former 5-star running back in Najee Harris, who also had a 1,000-yard season a year ago. You have two receivers in Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith that can definitely produce a 1,000-yard season. And whether it's Terrell Shavers, John Mechie, Slade Bolden, Xavier Williams, any one of these freshmen that came in the 2020 class, or even Jaleel Billingsley at tight end, Mac Jones has a supporting cast too. He has just as good as a supporting cast as Joe Burrow, probably even possibly a better supporting cast than what Joe Burrow had, give or take. So the supporting cast is there. And then number three, just like Burrow had Joe Brady as his offensive genius, Mac Jones has Steve Sarkisian. And Coach Sark is burnt up right now. He is burned at the fact that he did not get the opportunity to win it all with Tua Tagovailoa due to the injuries Tua had. So you better believe it. You better believe it right now. Sarkisian is taking every single shot at making sure he's going to get Mac Jones to have a big-time year and have that type of success. So yards-wise, probably not, but championship-wise, I think Mac Jones can have the Joe Burrow type of season. Folks, we're going to go to a quick break right now. When we come back, we go to your phone calls after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We are back into the action on a Monday here on In My Own Words, the podcast, hottest show on the streets. Yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. As always, the number to call to make yourself a part of the show, 205-448-1358. That number again, 205-448-1358. But it actually appears we got some callers in the queue right now. So let's take our first caller of the evening. You are live on In My Own Words, the podcast. What's on your mind?
Hey, I called in last week, and I wanted to finish up a statement, but you kind of cut me off.
What statement were you trying to get into?
I was talking about the recruiting, and I kind of apologize for saying this is one of Nick Saban's worst recruiting classes.
Man, you were just speaking your mind. Don't feel bad.
I do have a question, though.
Go ahead.
How was Bama not able to close the deal with Ennis Rakenstrap?
Say it one more time.
How was Alabama not able to finish the deal with Ennis Rakenstrap, the three-star corner?
That kind of goes back to something I mentioned with the two signing periods that are in college football right now. The majority of teams, and Nick Saban included with Alabama, they try to hit on everything in that first signing period, which is in December. So that's where 85 to 90% of the work is done. Those are the guys that you are really trying to go after, the guys you really want to hit on, the guys you really want to bring in. Now, in the signing day coming in February, from January to February, there may be a couple of other guys you can look at, you can go after. But I guess due to the fact that they were not the main guys you were targeting in, of course, January, or in, of course, December to start off the signing period, that may be the issue, or that may be the case right there. Now, Alabama already has brought in a pretty loaded defensive back class, and it stockpiled its class with a bunch of DBs. So the reason why it did hit on that particular guy is Alabama's loaded at that position.
What about McKinley Jackson?
That's kind of the same thing. Alabama already had Tim Smith in this class, Jamarian Latham in this class, Jamil Burrows. It signed 5 guys in the 2019 class, so it was already loaded on the defensive line. McKinley Jackson would have been a nice add, but I feel like Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M needed McKinley Jackson a bit more than what Alabama needed him, just due to Bama's already loaded on that defensive line.
Makes sense.
But, man, I appreciate you as always, man, calling in and listening to the show, man. Keep vibing with us.
Yes, sir.
We rock on down to our next caller in the queue. You're live on In My Own Words, the podcast, with your man, Stephen M. Smith. What's on your mind on a Monday?
Steven, what's up, my man?
What's going on?
Hey, so I've heard that Bryce Young has been getting a lot of Blake Sims comparisons, and I was wondering what your opinion on this is.
A lot of Blake Sims comparisons. That's interesting. I mean, Bryce Young's incredibly athletic, so I can see that, but Bryce Young's arm is better in terms of the all-around passes he can make than Blake Sims. Now, no offense to Blake. Blake's my boy. Blake's my guy. And one of the prettiest deep balls I've ever seen in Alabama history came from one Blake Sims. But in terms of just the intermediate passes, the deep balls, the anticipation, just Bryce Young can complete more of a variety of throws than Blake Sims. I'll say it like that.
Definitely. And I had another question. So, I heard that you're related to Stephen A. Smith, and I was just wondering what it's like being cousins with him.
Actually, I am not related to Stephen A. Smith. Not related. Completely different initial. I would love to have his checks, though, but not related to him.
Okay.
But I appreciate you, man, for calling in the show, man. Keep listening to us.
Yeah, real tide.
Getting some callers in early here in the queue in terms of the show. We're going to also go into some of these comments here.
Hello?
We have another caller in the queue before we go into the comments, though. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on?
Doing well, man. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, man, I just wanted to break down the Alabama football schedule real quick with you, if that's all right.
Take your time. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was looking at our schedule, and I know some Alabama fans might disagree with me here. I know we have a high standard that we're going to win a championship every year, probably play Clemson, got to beat LSU this year. I think there's a very real possibility that Alabama could lose 3 games this year. I think we could lose. I think we could lose to Georgia. I don't know. They haven't gotten over the hump of beating Alabama yet. I'm going to be really bold here. I think there's a small chance we lose in Knoxville, and I think we could lose to Auburn, but I don't think we lose to Auburn at home.
I'll say this. I'm only concerned about one game on the schedule, and that'll be Ole Miss, just because it's in Oxford. You got Lane Kiffin. He's controversial, but he's very smart in what he's doing, and he walks into a very talented environment now. With Georgia, no more Jake Fromm. Can the guy from Wake Forest do it? Remains to be seen. I like the signing class Tennessee brought in, but can Jeremy Pruitt pull this thing off? That remains to be seen. And then Auburn, I just feel like when Auburn is not in the voodoo-known area as Jordan-Hare Stadium in Lee County, it doesn't seem to really work out well for Auburn. But, man, I appreciate your thoughts, man. Keep listening to the show.
Yeah, can I ask one more quick thing?
Just one more quick thing here.
I was going to ask, I'm not sure how closely you follow Alabama baseball, but give me a prediction real quick. Opening day, a couple days away, how you think the Tide will do on the diamond this year?
Think Brad Bohannon's good. Think he's got some brewing in this season. But appreciate you calling in. I think Coach Bohannon's got some brewing. I think he can be a really good coach here for Bama baseball. But we'll see. We got one more caller into the queue here. You're live on In My Own Words, the podcast. What's on your mind?
Yes, how you doing? Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely, man. What's up?
Yes, I'm calling in reference. My concern is the defense. I remember when Nick Saban took over Alabama, and he had Kirby Smart as a defensive coach, and ever since Kirby Smart left Alabama, the defense has went down and given up a lot of points. I don't know if Kirby Smart was the one that was in charge of recruiting the defense, players, but that recruiting had also took a big, hurting.
Kirby
so I don't
Smart.
know who's going to replace Kirby Smart, because he's here in Georgia. I live here in Georgia now, and he's improved Georgia defense, and he's recruiting a lot of defensive players,
Well, Kirby was good in recruiting when he was at Alabama. Of course, the assistant coaches, Nick Saban kind of gives them their own region, their own area to recruit in, and Kirby was fantastic in what he did. Mm-hmm. I think the coaching turnover has hurt Alabama some in terms of recruiting. When you lose guys like Kirby, like Jeremy Pruitt, Mel Tucker, Derek Ansley, the loss is definitely felt. You can throw Bo Davis in that category also. But I feel like this year's class, it brought it back in terms of, Nick Saban, Coach Saban went out there and got a lot of the in-state kids. The state of Alabama is becoming a recruiting hotbed again. So getting a lot of the in-state guys to have 9 to 10 of your 25 signees from the state is a big deal. So I think the defense next season, healthy roster, young freshman talent in here, I think the defense will be good next season.
Okay. And Matt Jones, he was a good player to me compared to Tua, because Tua had gained some weight before he had those injuries. And Tua, he kept the ball a little too long for me. Instead of just throwing the ball out of bounds, he always hold the ball and thought he should throw a touchdown every time, like he threw the first touchdown, a couple of years ago against Georgia. Matt Jones is quick on his feet, and he's a smart thinker with the ball. If the play is not there, just throw it out of bounds, and live to play the next down. So I think he's smarter with the ball and a little quicker, on his feet. So, but he's going to be fine. My concern is that defense line, because they could have won that last game, but the defense just gave up too many points.
I feel like defensively, Alabama is going to be better this season. I like what Mac Jones can do where this team is concerned. But keep listening to the show, man. Appreciate you calling in. We're going to continue with the conversation on the other side of the break. When we get back, we'll dive into the wide receivers of Alabama. Who can have the better year between Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith? Don't touch that dial, folks. You're listening to In My Own Words.
If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry. Delivery is also available through Waitr and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Back inside the action here on the best form of Crimson Tide football news, notes, and information from the break. This is, In My Own Words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen Smith, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And after talking one Mac Jones, we now get into the conversation at wide receiver for Alabama. Who will have the better year between Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle? Folks, this is hard. This is real hard because I like both of these guys. I really do. Devontae Smith, you got Mr. Clutch, Mr. Reliability, Mr. Second and 26 or half of second and 26, Mr. 1,000-yard receiver. And then you got Jalen Waddle, baby, Waddle, Mr. Lightning in a Bottle, Mr. Explosion, Mr. J-Dub, Mr. Holla at a player when you see him in the street, Mr. You Can't Catch a Speeding Bullet. It's hard, man. It is so hard when you look at both of these guys, and especially when you break them down in terms of who could have the better season. First and foremost, you're starting with Devontae Smith. I just remember in 2017, the August camp in 2017, where I remember Cam Sims told me, Steven, Devontae Smith, Tay that dude. Tay that beast. Tay gonna go grab that thing. If that ball in the air, Tay gonna go snatch it. Tay got the best hands on this team. And this was when Alabama had Calvin Ridley at the time. And I'm looking at Cam Sims going, bruh, are you punking me out? Do I need to call Ashton Kutcher right now? He like, Steve, man, swear to you, bruh, Tay is that monster. Like, you don't mess with Tay. Tay that dog. And I go up in the press box to watch the fall camp practice, and lo and behold, Devontae Smith was snatching everything. He was Kevin Norwood mixed with Kenny Bell, and I left the stadium that day going, Cam Sims is not pulling my chain. This dude's for real. We all would end up recognizing Devontae Smith as the guy that the 2017 season had the 2 game-winning touchdowns, the one against Mississippi State in Starkville, and then the more heralded one, the 2nd and 26, 41-yard catch from Tua Tagovailoa against Georgia, getting the 26-23 win there in overtime. But Smitty, 68 catches a season ago, 1,256 yards, 14 touchdowns. He actually led the team in receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, yards per catch, 18.5, and yards per game, 96.6. I mean, Smitty, 3 100-yard games a season ago, all against SEC teams. When you look at South Carolina LSU and Ole Miss. He even had 2 200-yard games. I mean, he burned Ole Miss and LSU like bacon. 2 200-yard performances against both of those teams. And while LSU always likes to flaunt the fact that, we dominated Alabama, or we beat down Alabama, LSU, you only won by 5. When was 5 points ever considered domination? You want to see domination? Poor Derek Stingley got burned to bits by Devontae Smith. I mean, call a cop. I mean, he got robbed, got his cookie taken from him, got his soul snatched. I mean, Derek Stingley, call the morgue. Just call 1-800-MORG, Alexander Shannara, something. Because Derek Stingley got taken to school by Devontae Smith that entire game. The brother just got straight mossed by Smitty in that matchup. So Devontae Smith, Mr. Clutch, Mr. 2nd and 26, Mr. Reliable, Dependable. As much as I love Smitty, love him, and he's going to hate me when I do this, give me Jalen Waddle for the receiver that's going to have the better season. And the reason why is he's not only the human joystick, folks, Jalen Waddle can beat you from so many different angles, okay? He can beat you at wide receiver. He can beat you as a kick return specialist. He can beat you as a punt return specialist. I even had a friend of mine that called me on Sunday and said, Steven, I don't trust Alabama secondary. Can we put Jalen Waddle at corner and have him pick off the quarterback and take it back for a touchdown? Can we have Jalen Waddle at corner? And as I'm talking with her, I'm like, maybe, maybe not. We'll see what Nick Saban says. He'll probably answer the question, but that's none of my stinking business, which he would have the right to do that because Nick Saban is 68 years old and because Nick Saban is making $11.1 million a year. So he would have that right to tell me to mind my own stinking business, which I probably still would go back at Nick Saban. But then again, I'm not as bold as Mac Jones is. Shout out to Mac 10. But getting back to Jalen Waddle here, fast, elusive, human joystick, lightning in a bottle, works incredible in space. A lot of people have even gone as far as to say he's better than David Deuce Palmer. And I got a chance to watch a lot of clips of David Deuce Palmer in my lifetime. A lot of people have now admitted to the fact that Jalen Waddle may actually be better than David Deuce Palmer. And Waddle a season ago, 33 catches, 560 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. He could have easily had 6 punt return touchdowns last year. Easily. If not for people blocking in the back. Why do folks have to block in the back? If not for the blocking in the back, Jalen Waddle could have very easily had 6 punt return touchdowns a season ago. He did have one against the LSU, and that was a thing of beauty where I don't know how he escaped this tackle. He gets grabbed by his face mask. Keep in mind, he's only 182 pounds, doesn't weigh that much, but he's able to, by the jaws of life, free himself from the LSU defender that's grabbing his face mask. And then he reverses field, turns all the way back around, and goes 77 yards to the house, to which every Alabama fan inside Bryant-Denny Stadium is going, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Houdini is in the house, and Houdini is wearing number 17. And the moment Waddle scores, the score is 10-7, and everybody just believed that after that touchdown, Alabama was going to find a way to win that football game because Waddle had injected so much energy into the crowd after that touchdown. So, but then even better than that, though, the game against Auburn, Jordan-Hare, Lee County in the Iron Bowl, and once again, I can't stand going to Auburn. That, Voodoo Nation can't stand going there. Crazy stuff happens over there. But at Auburn, Jalen Waddle has 4 touchdowns in this game. 3 of them, I just stare at the field and go, this is ungodly, this is unfair, this is not right. I felt bad for Auburn in that game. And I'm not supposed to feel bad for Auburn, but you're never supposed to feel bad for Auburn. But in that game, the three of the 4 touchdowns that Jalen Waddle had, I felt bad for Auburn. The first of the 3 was the 58-yard catch and go to the house where Mac Jones takes a shot to the chops. He throws what should have been, or what looks to be, a 5 to 8 yard slant route to the inside, slant post pattern. Jalen Waddle makes the catch. Upon his feet coming down, there are 5 Auburn defenders around him. So 5 white jerseys or blue jerseys, or whatever jerseys they wore that day. 5 Auburn jerseys are around him. He splits 2 guys in half. He gets on the perimeter and creates the most difficult angle for the other 3 to try to catch him. Mind you, the brother's not even running at full speed. He's running half speed. And he goes 58 yards, buck him to the house. Huh? And so he goes from there. He goes from there. And then the 98-yard kick return touchdown. This was just not right. The 98-yard kick return touchdown, it gave me shades of Kenyon Drake vibes from the 2016 college football playoff national championship game against Clemson, the first matchup off the 2015 season. I was there in Glendale, Arizona, in University of Phoenix Stadium as Kenyon Drake, fly high, Alti Tenpenny, makes the dive to put the ball across the pylon for the touchdown, going 95 yards. I'm watching Jalen Waddle in this edition here. Waddle gets in between the 20 and the 15-yard line, or the 10 and the 15-yard line. And there's this Auburn defender that honestly believes he's got the angle. He's got the angle on Waddle. And as he is diving for Waddle's legs, something in Waddle's mind goes, click into a short second hyperdrive like now. And he clicks into hyperdrive, and the guy just dives and he grabs air. And Waddle goes into the end zone. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And then the last touchdown, of course, is one where Mac Jones, under pressure again, throws the ball at its highest point to the end zone. We all knew Waddle was fast. We all knew he was elusive. I don't think we all thought he had the hops like he has. The guy jumps up as if he's got a pogo stick or he's got springs in his shoes. He climbs the ladder. Mind you, there's a 6'2" defensive back guarding him. He jumps over the 6'2" DB, snatches the ball away from him, and comes down in the end zone with the football. At that point, I think I remember me throwing my papers to the ground and just saying, is there a way where we can just claim 3 more years of eligibility on Jalen Waddle? Can he just not go pro? Can he just not go to the NFL? If there's a way that Bama Nation can just claim 3 extra years of eligibility on Jalen Waddle, because he's just unfair. That is a human cheat code. I felt bad for Auburn that day. I felt bad for Auburn. If I'm Alabama right now, this is what I would do. I would find a way for Jalen Waddle to touch the ball 15 to 20 times a game, and I don't care how you do it. Whether it's at receiver, whether it's at kick return, punt return, line him up in the backfield, have him take direct snaps, have him line up as a running back, give him the ball that way, put him on defense. I don't care what you have to do. Jalen Waddle must touch the ball 15 to 20 times a game. That has to be that has to be the standard. That has to be a requirement. That has to be a requisite. He has to touch the football 10 to 15 to 20 times a game. But folks, we're going to take another break right now. When we come back, we dive into more of your phone calls. We'll be back after this.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt it, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All-Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to stsfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to stsfootwear.com and get your All-Bama sneakers today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Back in from the break on the hottest show on the streets in My Own Words, the podcast, Touchdown Alabama Magazine, Stephen M. Smith. We go back to the phone lines where we pick up Waylon. Waylon, you're live on the show. What's going on? Oh, we got George on the line right now. What's on your mind?
Hey, Steven, that song in your queue is absolute fire.
I appreciate it. Props out to the maestro, my man John Ivory in the booth right now, setting us up with that great music. But what's on your mind?
Anyways, what are your thoughts on missing out on Ennis Rackenstrap and McKinnon Johnson?
My thoughts on it, I would love to have had them both at Alabama, but at the same time, with Ennis, the defensive back, Alabama was already stockpiled, loaded at that spot, so I can see why he chose Missouri to get that early playing time, to get that experience on the field. And then McKinley Jackson, kind of the same thing. As much as I would have loved to have had him at Alabama, tied, loaded on the defensive line, and I guess Jimbo Fisher and A&M had more need of him.
I'm so happy for Rakenstrap to be playing for Missouri since it's his dream school, but this brings me to my next question. Some of the smaller teams that I think can make a huge surprise are Arkansas and Kentucky. What are some smaller teams you think can make a huge jump?
I'm going to say this. I like your thought on Kentucky. I like that. I like Mark Stoops. I think he's building something special in Lexington, at Big Blue Nation. I think a lot of people sleep on Mark Stoops. So I like Kentucky. Arkansas, put a pin in that one. Not quite sure on that one yet, but I appreciate you calling. Keep listening. We're going to go to some of these comments here in the queue in terms of the show here. We got one from Nick Saban Jr. that says, he writes in at Nick Saban Jr., John Mechie will be the third guy to ball out. John Mechie was the 8A game MVP. Like John Mechie, I call him Calvin Ridley's Canadian twin, Calvin Ridley 2.0. Like John Mechie, think he will be something really, really special here, especially if he's able to get on the field and do his thing here. Let's see here. This comes from Tide Fan. Tide Fan writes in, Tide needs to keep their foot on the gas in 2020 and hang 80 points on everybody they play. We have the guys to do it, and it's time to say no more Mr. Nice Guy, roll Tide. Tide Fan, I agree with you. Now, hanging 80 points a game, that's a stretch right there. But I agree with you. Got to get back to being dominant. Got to get back to being nasty, tough, physical. Show those traits that make Alabama football a force to be reckoned with. So I agree with you on that one, Tide Fan. We're going to go to Arthur Spear. Arthur Spear writes in, Ben Davis, what about him? Ben Davis gets so much love, JP. Ben Davis gets so much love. I have never seen a recruit or a player that has come to Alabama, and even though it hasn't really panned out the way he would have liked it to, Ben Davis still gets love. With Ben is going to be in a battle to try to be a starter at that jack rush linebacker position. Now, him getting that sack he got a season ago was nice. It was awesome. I was happy to see Ben get that sack. We'll see about Ben. But we're going to continue the comments in a moment. Right now, we got another call here in the queue. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Stephen? This is Marty. I just had a quick question. What are your thoughts on how Pete Golden's going to do on the defense this year? And being this is his second year and really didn't have a great year last year, I just want to get your thoughts on Pete Golden and how the defense is going to do this year, and I'm going to hang up and listen. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Marty, calling in there. Pete Golding, I think nobody is going to work harder than Pete Golding defensively. I think he, in terms of the coaching staff, period, I think he saw what happened last year. He understands what went wrong, even though you have the injuries that took place. A healthy roster for Pete Golding, which he will have. Having a Freddie Roach come in here to coach on the defensive line, that's going to help Pete. But I feel like Pete will take inventory. He'll dissect what happened. And I feel like you will not see another coach work harder than him. I think Pete's ready to bounce back and have a big year. But I appreciate Marty for throwing that question in. We go to another caller here. You are live on In My Own Words, the podcast with Stephen Smith. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, Steve? This your boy Joe from Flo. How you doing?
Man, I am blessed, man. Can't complain here. What's popping with you?
Oh, not a whole lot. I ring you down. But I just wanted to ask because, you know, I'm a huge Auburn fan. I don't know if you remember me or not. But I was just wondering now, you know, in years prior, if Auburn, if we were good, you know, just like Nick Marshall, we had Nick Marshall. The following season, we were not that good. You know, then we had the first year with Stidham. Then the next season, we were not that good. So, I mean, do you think there's a pattern? So what do you see going on next year? Because to be honest, I think Bo Nix, he still looked like a true freshman at the end of the year, especially the bowl game. I was surprised. I was pleased, but, I mean, what do you think as far as in development? And, you know, I'm not a big fan of Gus, and I'll just listen.
I'll say this, Joe. I mean, it comes down to, can Gus just let go? That's Gus's biggest problem. He doesn't want to let go of the play calling. It seems like at times he wants to give an offensive coordinator a chance, and then he pulls it back and says some stuff like, well, I feel the most happiest when I'm calling the plays. I got in the football to call the plays. Gus, what you going to do? Are you going to call the plays and actually develop a quarterback, or are you going to sit there and let the offensive coordinator that's being paid this money do their job? And it's a giant disservice to Bo Nix because I feel like Bo Nix can be a productive quarterback. He just needs to have the coaching to help him and the consistent coaching to help him.
Well, I wanted to ask because, I mean, like I said, you remember Nick Marshall's first season. We went to the Natty game, right?
Yeah, he did.
And then, you know, we got Stidham, and then the year he ended up getting the extension. And, you know, the year prior, you know, the year after, we were not that good. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and is this like a pattern to you? I mean, if you just think about it, just think all the way back. Does this not seem like a pattern with him, though? Like, you know, for 1 year, it shock you, but it just seems like when people have film, that we become very predictable. And this is something that I've been saying for you. Like, I've been saying this, you know. So I just want to know what you think. You know, I end up finding you, and, you know, I just want to know what your thoughts on that.
I think there's a pattern there, man, but we'll see what Auburn can do to break that pattern. But, Joe, man, appreciate you calling. Keep live and with us. Gonna go back to the comments section here. This comes from Striving to Be Set Apart. Striving to Be Set Apart writes in, I'd love to see Bama use Waddle like Ole Miss did Dexter McCluster out the backfield years ago. That's a good point. Man, boy, Dexter McCluster was a beast at Ole Miss. I would like to see Jalen Waddle be used like that, for real, though. I would like to see Jalen Waddle be used like that. So, Striving to Be Set Apart, I like that thought on using Jalen Waddle like Dexter McCluster. Nick Saban Jr. writes back in again. I think this is the offensive line that could be the best in the country. I like this offensive line at Nick Saban Jr., especially if Alabama goes the route of taking Landon Dickerson, putting him at right tackle, having Darian Dalcourt at center, and having power right with Dickerson and Deontay Brown, or power left with Leatherwood and Evan Neal. Like that move with the offensive line. This could be one of the best guys. Let's see here. Okay, we got at Stephen DiConstanzo. Stephen DiConstanzo writes in, Yeah, you got it, man. I'd love to see Tyrell, as in Tyrell Shavers, targeted more with that height. I want to see Tyrell Shavers hit the field. I do. He's got the size. He's got the ability. He's got the wingspan. He's got the catching radius. Depth kind of kept him from not getting on the field a lot this past year. With Ruggs and Judy both gone, I think Tyrell Shavers carves a role. He creates an opportunity. He's somebody that Mac Jones seems to really like. So I want to see Tyrell Shavers out of Louisville, Texas, get on this field. But we're going to take another break here on the show. When we get back, we dive into this Bama defense, and can it bounce back in year 2 under Pete Golding? We'll be back after this, folks.
Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We're in here. We in here from the break. In my own words, the podcast, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, shouting out all the fans that have been calling in, been dropping comments in the live chat. You guys have been absolutely incredible. Keep vibing with us here on In My Own Words as we dive into the Alabama defense. Alabama defense, year 2 with Pete Golding. Can it bounce back? Can it be better? I think it can. I think Coach Golding is going to be probably, if not the hardest working person in the offseason to make sure that he does not have the same mistakes that he had in the previous season. And I'll say this. History is an interesting thing. History is a crazy thing. History has a tendency of repeating itself. And Alabama has been here before, believe it or not. Remember 2013 and 2014, Bama fans? Remember that? 2013, 2014 with Kirby Smart, and Alabama's defense was kind of rough, kind of terrible then. And Alabama's defensive backs couldn't catch a cold. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. Remember 2013 and 2014 when opposing teams would always say, you want to beat Alabama? Throw on them. They DBs can't guard. They can't defend. They can't stay in phase. They can't turn their head. They can't pick the ball, and I'll throw on them. At the very least, you're going to get a pass interference flag every time. It was pretty rough in those 2 years, 2013 and 2014, when Alabama defensive backs couldn't play the receivers, and Alabama couldn't get a pass rush with that defensive front. But remember what happened in 2015. Alabama made some changes. It took Eddie Jackson, moved him from corner to safety. It signed a very special, instinctive, intelligent defensive back in Minkah Fitzpatrick and had him at nickel. And it made a certain hire, brought in Mel Tucker from the National Football League to coach the defensive backs, the secondary. And y'all know what happened in 2015. A ginormous turnaround. No-fly zone was born in 2015. Alabama secondary, 19 picks. 6 of those returned for touchdowns. Eddie Jackson led the team with 6 interceptions that year. Alabama was sacking the quarterback. I think it had 52 sacks that season, just teeing off on guys. It made some changes. It made some adjustments. Guys were focused. Everybody had the right energy, the right attitude, and things got right in 2015. So we have seen this happen before. You look at Pete Golding and this Crimson Tide group on defense, it's got a chance to bounce back. It has a chance to have a year where it can go back to being that group that Crimson Tide fans, you guys have grown so used to seeing on the field. And with Dylan Moses coming back, that's a big deal. He's a big part of this leadership. Christian Barmore, the nastiness he shows, the physicality he shows, the energy he gives, that's huge on the defensive line. Having a Brian Ray back, having Patrick Surtain back, having Joshua McMillan back, the growth that Shane Lee and Christian Harris made a season ago. Even guys like Alakaho, and I believe that young man. Alakaho is going to be the most improved defensive player. Book it. Calling it right now. Because this man on special teams was blocking punts left and right. He just loves to mess junk up. He was blocking punts left and right. And on top of that, I feel like he's going to carve out a role somewhere on this defense, either an inside linebacker or a weak side linebacker. Kaho's going to carve out a role. Really like what he brings. So he would be the most improved defensive player. But having guys healthy, having leadership back, having playmakers back, having young talents on defense coming in as freshmen, I think Will Anderson's going to be a big-time factor. I think Drew Sanders is going to be a big-time factor. Quandarius Robinson, Timothy Smith, guys like Jamil Burrows, Jamarian Latham. In the secondary, I really like the Brian Branch kid. Jacquez Robinson can be really good. Even down to someone like, in the secondary, Ronald Williams, the JUCO transfer. So you got young talent in here. You got leadership coming back. You've got a whole year under your belt when you talk Pete Golding. If Alabama can just stay away from the season-ending injuries, from the ruptured Achilles and the torn ACLs and the broken clavicles and the foot problems, and we know they're going to have some bumps and bruises. You're going to have some hamstrings. You're going to have some bruised knees. You're going to have the small stuff. The small stuff you can deal with. As long as you can stay away from the season-ending type of stuff, Alabama defensively will be fine. Pete Golding is going to work his absolute tail off because he's a perfectionist like Nick Saban. He wants to have those attention to details. Came in with the glass half empty, but he's not making an excuse for it. He's going to be ready and prepared for the upcoming season. And the main thing is Alabama getting a lot of those bad attitudes out of the room. Sometimes seasons go bad because you have players that don't have the right attitude. You're getting those personality issues out of the room and getting the good personalities, getting the good vibes in. But folks, we're going to continue this conversation and wrap things up on the other side of the break. Right now, we take one final quick word from our sponsors.
Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Getting ready to put a pretty bow on this thing on In My Own Words, the podcast, on a Monday, hottest show in the streets. Touchdown Alabama Magazine. I want to thank all the fans for listening in on this evening, calling in, writing in, texting in, or putting your thoughts in that YouTube chat line. You guys have been hitting us up and have been awesome. But in continuing the conversation on the Alabama defense and one Pete Golding, I think the Alabama defense bounces back. It's healthy, got leadership coming back, it's got talented freshmen coming in here that want to work, that want to be successful, that want to do good, that want to restore the Bama factor and the Bama standard. So, and then along with those things, I look at three things that have to happen here if Alabama wants to get back to being the dominant force on defense. Number one of those three things, Bama's got to get off the field on third down next season. Got to get back to getting off the field on third down, creating 3 and outs, getting in that quarterback's head, rushing the passer, creating those 3 and outs, getting that short field position, forcing guys to punt the ball away, just getting off the field on third down and getting rested on the sideline. That's one thing that the Tide has to do. Number 2 is returning to stopping the run. Along with that, being able to affect the quarterback. In terms of stopping the run, Alabama gave up over 100 yards rushing per game a season ago. That's not Alabama football. That's not Alabama defense. Alabama defense is the moment that running back gets that football, he just crapped his pants. Because he's getting hit by 300-pound defensive linemen and 200-plus-pound linebackers that are coming to take his head off. So, getting back to stuffing the run, and then getting back to creating pressure to the quarterback. And that's a huge reason why this battle at Jack Rush linebacker in discussing names like Christopher Allen, King Wakuda, Kevin Harris II, Will Anderson, Drew Sanders, Quandarius Robinson, Chris Braswell. This is why the race at Jack linebacker is so pivotal, so important. Because if Alabama can get back to having that guy lightning quick off the edge to put a quarterback in the dirt and having him pick grass out of his helmet for the longest of time or for the whole point of the game. If Alabama can get back to having that guy as a pass rusher, it makes life so much better on the secondary. It makes life so much better on your offense getting on the field because you know your defense has already created that type of momentum. So getting back to stuff in the run and getting back to affecting the quarterback. And then third, and most importantly for Alabama, that must happen this season, is creating game-changing turnovers. This has been a staple of Alabama, or this was a staple of Alabama in the Gene Stallings era. This was a staple of Alabama in the early years of Nick Saban, and it was a staple of Alabama from 2015 to 2017. Getting those soul-crushing, game-changing turnovers where the opposition just thinks we're about to move the ball on Alabama. The opposition just thinks we're closing in on making a big play. The opposition just thinks we're about to score a touchdown on Alabama, and all of a sudden, there's a player that steps up and creates a strip sack or creates an interception or gets a pick six or returns a fumble for a touchdown, and it just deflates, it just demoralizes the entire demeanor of the opponent. I remember going back to, case in point here, the Alabama-Tennessee game from the 2015 season. Tennessee came into Bryant-Denny Stadium, and it had Josh Dobbs at quarterback. And, of course, Tennessee was leading 14-13 going into the fourth quarter when Jacob Coker got on the drive, finding Calvin Ridley and Ardarius Stewart, O.J. Howard, among other guys. Derrick Henry finished off the drive with a touchdown. And, of course, we all know how the story ended. Of course, Ryan Anderson got the strip sack, and A'Shawn Robinson recovered. So getting back to getting those turnovers, soul-crushing turnovers, to demoralize the opposing team, returning to stuff in the run, getting that pressure to the quarterback, and just getting off the field on third down. But, folks, that's going to do it here for today's show. In my own words, the podcast, hottest show on the streets. As always, folks, you know what to do. You download the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. You can get this via the iPhone App Store. If you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you just so happen to have the Android phone. If you're a podcast person, the podcast options as always, iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Overcast.fm, TuneIn Radio, or iHeartRadio. Get to those sites right now. If the good Lord sees fit, I will return on Wednesday, continuing more of the conversation of Crimson Tide football. But as always, I leave you with these three things. You know what they be. Wives, love your husbands. Husbands, please kiss your wives. Children, get that homework done. It's back to a school week. Get you 3 hearty meals a day, 3 hearty laughs a day. Until Wednesday, folks, it's your man, Stephen M. Smith. Peace. You've been listening to In My Own Words.